Two guys dress in drag to get an apartment in a building for women only. That was the outlandish situation that Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari found themselves in. The show only lasted 2 seasons, but as we fast forward, we find they are still bosom buddies.
Well, well, well. You have to admit, this is a great apartment.
Yes, but I'm dressed like a woman.
It's cheap.
Yes, but I'm dressed like a woman.
We'd constantly be surrounded by beautiful girls.
It is nice and airy, isn't it?
This 1980s twist on the tried-and-true guys in drag gag followed the antics of bosom buddies Kip Wilson and Henry Desmond, 2 junior advertising executives living in a hotel for women only.
How do I look?
Frankly, you're a pig.
Though critically acclaimed, this daring comedy was never a ratings blockbuster, hampered by scheduling problems and a premise that stars Peter Scolari and Tom Hanks believe was ahead of its time.
There were an abundance of successful comedies at that time. Hanks likes to refer to the comedies that were popular at that time as shows that were more representative of the 70s.
And so we were held up by the standard of where you were on the schedule at night, and we were opposite a little show called Magnum P.I.
We were at the wrong time. If you were to put Bosom Buddies on the air 2 years ago, I think you could well anticipate a healthy long run.
This morning, Lily calls me demure, feminine, and delicate. What's going on, huh?
You were wearing a blouse, a skirt, and Joan Crawford hurt me pumps.
We were always just kind of like in the middle of the ratings, but I thought eventually we started doing a pretty hip television show.
Well, the real story of Bosom Buddies seems to be one of a show that should have been a hit, but wasn't. The show's achieved greater popularity in syndicated reruns than during its prime, an irony not lost on actress Wendy Jo Sperber, who played Kip and Henry's neighbor and co-worker.
That show wasn't as successful as it is now. We struggled. We were picked up for, 3 shows at a time, a scene at a time. They never knew, they'd switch our nights. So when we were making it, it wasn't as fun as it is to watch it now, and the way people think of it now. It was, no one liked us then. It isn't fair, it isn't fair, it isn't...
Sperber continues to push the limits of conventional TV, turning up this season in Fox Television's bawdy sitcom Babes about 3 big and beautiful sisters.
Good morning, children. And I say children to indicate experience, certainly not any great age difference between us.
Broadway veteran Holland Taylor played Kip and Henry's Barracuda-like boss. Today, she plays a similar character on the sitcom Going Places. But Holland says even 10 years after Bosom Buddies began, it's still that show which people remember.
People come up to me on the street in New York where I live, and they grab me by the elbow and they say, "Why did they take off that show? I was insane about that show. I loved it, and now I have to watch it over and over and over again," and it could have run for years.
For Bosom Buddies resident hotel manager Talma Hopkins, the show was her first big break away from the singing trio Tony, Orlando, and Dawn, an opportunity for which she was grateful.
It was, I think, for me, a giant step towards really having my own career, and probably was the first job that made me actually feel like I was an actress as opposed to just a lucky person that happened to be funny.
My son has disappeared. I can't find him anywhere. Peekaboo.
Hopkins continues to be funny, this time around on a hit series, the top-rated Family Matters.
Then we've got to ask ourselves, how badly do we want to succeed?
Peter Scolari found even greater sitcom success after the demise of Bosom Buddies. Scolari starred for 6 seasons as the prim and preppy Michael Harris on Newhart, but years later, he says the bond between he and Hanks remains strong.
We were very good friends at that time, but we were also kind of soldiers in the same battalion. I know that we're both very proud of the work we did together. We were just kids. We didn't have a great sense of what it was we were going to accomplish, but nonetheless, we went after it, and I think we got some very good results.
Scolari's buddy Tom Hanks got a glimpse of his future when actress Penny Marshall made a guest appearance on the show.
And doing a situation comedy can be murderous, even if you are part of a team. But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
Marshall would later direct Hanks in the feature film Big, a role that won him an Oscar nomination. Movies like Splash and The Bonfire of the Vanities have made Hanks one of Hollywood's biggest box office draws, but he still looks back fondly on the short-lived show that launched his career.
People had affection for it, let's say that. There were no food riots when it was taken off, unfortunately. When it was canceled, Poland was was pretty quiet, so didn't exactly pass with a lot of fanfare. But I think that there is a genuine kind of innocence and earnestness to the show that, and I think we all really cared about sort of what we were doing there. And what the main thing was, we had a blast when we were doing it.
Well, Scolari says that about every 6 months or so, he and Tom talk about a Bosom Buddies reunion. They'd even like to do a feature film to wrap up the whole story.